How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today it's taken a little while, this one, but I've explored the second map called Burned Forest. The setup I was running for this, I wanted to test this truck out, the Derry Special 15C-177 codename. Yeah, so I got it set up like this, got its custom paint job on, it's like a fire truck. The nice thing about it, you can have a crane, a sideboard, and a trailer, so it's like the old Holy Trinity that a lot of trucks don't get the chance to have, really. I'm also taking a maintenance trailer, but I was planning on dropping off pretty soon when I got there, but I just wanted to take one because I wasn't sure if there was a trailer store or a garage or anything on the map, which there isn't a garage or a trailer store that I've come across yet. And then I'm also going to tow a loaf and a radar trailer behind me, which again I was going to leave near the entrance, but I just wanted to take it along. The route I'm going to take is kind of along the bottom of the map. I've not really been this way on a video yet, at least. I wanted to cross that waterfall. I was originally potentially going to leave this footage in and just like the drive there, but to be honest, this Derry is really not that rapid at all. It's only got the advanced special gearbox. It's alright on certain situations, but certainly when I was going on like a long drive, yeah, it just felt a little bit on the slow side. I think what it really could do with that would help is like at the minute as you're driving along in auto, it's not got any diffs on or anything. The diffs are only like you can activate them when you go into the low ranges or reverse. Yeah, and I think it just bleeds like a certain amount of power between the wheels. There's always one spinning slightly faster than the other and so on. I will say as well, there is another upgrade for this truck which I've not found yet, even when I was exploring this second map, Burned Forest. But yeah, that's obviously got more power, so it might help a little bit, but in the scheme of things, I don't think it'll help a hell of a lot. I mean, it obviously, personally, I'd prefer like just a high range gearbox at this point, because at least the high gear in the high range gearbox has actually got a nice bit of momentum to it. So yeah, this is a little drive along. I did try as well. I disconnected the loaf and the trailer I'm towing. It didn't really make any difference to like how fast I was going. I don't think the maintenance trailer would either, because this thing feels like it's got enough power to tick along. I mean, we're only going along a flat road at the minute, and even when I was on like bits of tarmac road, it was just, there's only so fast it can go, really. So I left one or two little bits in, like this is crossing the river, like where there's a waterfall, sort of just to the right of me. And you'll see as I'm climbing up this hill, I think mostly I get caught on a rock, but yeah, it was just quite a good example to sort of show what the wheels are up to and the power and all the rest of it. So it stops back now. Interestingly, it didn't actually say stalling in high gear, but you can see one wheel's spinning, one's not. Again, it'd be interesting to see what the top engine actually does for that. I think it's that rock wedged kind of on the rear tyre, which between crawling up this hill and everything as well, it's just kind of blocked me. It did the same thing to me, or a similar thing, on this new map as well, so yeah, it doesn't happen very often or anything. It's still like a decent truck. Although I would say in the scheme of things, to be fair, it probably wasn't the most ideally suited truck to scout in this new map. I'm trying to think what I'd actually take instead. Probably something like a Taiga, maybe. You'd want something a bit smaller, really, because it is actually quite a tight, twisty map. It kind of, I'm trying to think what it sort of reminds me of. It's not a million miles from something like Northern Aegis Insulation, but without snow or anything. It's definitely not as open and flowing as like this map, the Albany River. Yeah, so this truck it probably ends up being like a little bit on the large side. That's what she said. Yeah, whereas I think something like a slightly smaller truck might have been able to kind of zip round the little tight weaving roads. But there is also definitely like fair amounts of sort of boggy dirt roads and all the rest of it. I mean, it's yeah, definitely a slower paced map than, like, say, the first one. So when I got here though, I'm at the gateway now. I've just parked the loaf in the little, there's a nice little convenient car park at the side of the entrance. And then yeah, the trailer I'm going to drop off in a sec. So there's only 2 watchtowers. Well, there's 2 watchtowers on this map, but there is actually a mission, or a contract, sorry, called Consciousness or something, where you can unlock a 3rd gateway, or watch point, sorry, but you're going to have to deliver stuff to there, etc. In the scheme of things, I suppose, you know, it'll do like a big radar pattern, but yeah, I'm just going to start like radaring it tonight and everything anyway. By the time you've driven there and back and all that, it's, you know, it's not going to be as much of a mystery by then. I've also drawn a line kind of around the edge of the map just to give a rough idea of how big the map is. It's definitely, it's not like a tiny little map or anything. I'd still say something like that Factory Grounds map on phase... is it 5 maybe? Yeah, I still think that was probably like the smallest map we've had really. But anyway, we'll set off. Again, I didn't really need the crane specifically. I was just more like the fact that you could fit quite a lot of different supplies on this truck. It's also, it's got a roof rack, but to access the roof rack, you go in like, when you've got the normal menu, you scroll over to where you can have like fog lights and all that, and it's on the roof option on that, so it's not in like the add-on section or anything. Yeah, pulling over the side of the road now just to cut the trailer loose. I kind of figured I should have enough fuel. I've got a goddamn horse with me, which I painted him up in his little flame paint job. Thought it might be pretty fitting since half of the map is apparently on fire and I'm in kind of a fire truck. Yeah, so between like the fuel in this, 380 litres, it's not terrible for burning fuel either, this truck. Or at least like the fuel tank is a pretty decent size as well. Yeah, the roof rack, I believe it's got something like 140 litres in it, and then I've effectively got another 200 with a loaf as well. When I got to here, it kind of, I can sort of carry on straight on the road or peel off to the left, but then I noticed there's kind of like a little pathway behind this little warehouse thing or something, so it kind of looked like if I followed the road straight ahead, it'd kind of head off to the right of the map, or at least sort of up the middle. It didn't really seem like I'd make it over to the watchtower, so I decided to go this way. And obviously at this point I was wondering, do I carry straight on and kind of go to the left of the screen now, or do I take this little pathway here? In the end, I'm glad I did choose this way, because when I looked after I got the watchtower on like that side going left, you can sort of see there, it doesn't really look like anything's going to get me up the hill. I can tell from the blue line I've drawn to the watchtower that the terrain definitely goes up quite a lot. So I know I'm going to have to do a bit of mountain climbing at some point, so yeah, this seemed like the most logical way. But you see, that was a little glitch there, apologies. Yeah, it just sort of shows you though, there's again, this truck, there's a little bit more 3-point turns and all that going on. And yeah, as for the engine, like I've pretty much scouted most of this map, unless I've just got unlucky on either Albany River or this map where the upgrade's like hiding in a slightly shaded section. Then yeah, I'm not too sure. I'll have to keep searching for it. I found the Zix, is it 566 or whatever the hell it's called. I've not unlocked it or anything yet. You have to do a mission for it, but I found like the location of where it is and stuff, so I'll get onto that pretty soon. And yeah, it's probably another good kind of showcase of the vehicle where it's, I'd say if anything, its main issue is like when you get stuck on rocks, and Rockman has definitely put in some overtime on this mission, or this map, sorry, so there's quite a few rocks laying around here and there. And I have actually got the chain tyres on for this one. I don't think that it'd make too much difference, because when I was looking around, like half the time the tyres aren't moving, which in theory is like not necessarily a bad thing, because if the tyres kind of dug into the ground and stopped dead, at least it means there's enough grip for it to grip in and stop dead. Like if they were all just spinning, that'd just kind of insinuate that yeah, you just haven't got enough grip to get up there, whether you've got enough power or not. This seemed like it was lacking power at the minute, so like I say, I'm still going to do a gameplay and review on this. I obviously want to find the top engine first before I do that. Yeah, and I'll kind of reserve judgment for the most part until then. But I was just saying it because if, like me, you kind of, if you found this Derry and you think, oh, I'll go and use it to scout this map. Again, it's not terrible, but I think there's probably slightly lighter, more nimble trucks that would be a bit of a better fit for this map. I think I was almost going to tip there as well. At one point, I even lowered the suspension on this because It doesn't feel like amazingly tippy, but there was once or twice when I was messing around with it yesterday and stuff as well, I did notice like it's definitely capable of tipping. It's one of them where it feels quite planted, but once you go too far and it starts to go, it doesn't feel like it fights against it. If anything, it feels like you start leaning into it, like possibly it's got a bit of weight high up in the roof, so it kind of carries it over once you've leant over far enough. And this, yeah, the first watchtower was definitely kind of buried up in the mountains a bit. I was gonna see if I could cut across to the left, but there's no point really. You're best off following the road that kind of wiggles around the mountain, because otherwise you'll be trying to like balance on sort of a knife edge, trying to weave through trees and stuff. And again, this truck's probably not the most ideally suited to that kind of driving style. And yeah, I mean, I go into low range with the diffs on and that, but because it's the advanced special gearbox, it's, especially once you're in the low ranges, it suits it obviously on little windy sections and mountain sections, it sort of makes sense. But when you're just trying to motor along the road a bit, yeah, it's a little bit too slow for that. There's a trailer there abandoned that I've discovered. It's one of them bloody gooseneck trailers as well. I've not used it, to be fair. I haven't used it for probably a couple of years now, but as I've said before, the last time I did use it, I was on, was it Island Lake, maybe? I was on the Michigan maps anyway, and I had 4 pieces of wood, and the trailer just started jiggling a little bit, and then it suddenly freaked out, like it was just having a spasm, and started wiggling around, flew up in the air, threw all my wood all over the place, and then eventually landed and calmed down, and that was it. I was luckily at the time able to like reach up with my crane and just pluck the wooden planks or just whatever it was out of the sky, and then yeah, I don't think I've ever used that trailer since. Because also in the same night where that happened to me, it was about 10 minutes earlier, I was trying to wiggle through like a sort of foresty section, and it cuts in on the corner quite a lot, that gooseneck trailer, so it was catching on trees, ended up getting it stuck pretty damn well. So yeah, when I finally got out of that, that probably didn't help the situation, where it then freaked out and started flying around a few minutes later. Seems to be getting quite a lot of glitches at the minute. I don't really get it with the PlayStation, because I've got the PlayStation Pro, which is apparently supposed to have 1 terabyte of memory, but then when you look in the storage menu, it says something about, I think it's like 860 odd, so there's already 140 gigabytes missing, or that must be for like storage or whatever. But then tonight, in fact, I lost a little bit of footage because I went to save the footage, and once the PS4 thinks it's full, it just won't highlight the option for me to save the video. And it did that to me tonight, which is not the end of the world, because to be honest, like the footage, it was taking quite a long time to get around this map and all the rest of it, so I've ended up cutting a little bit out, because in the end it was like a lot of video and driving around for not a lot of gain. I was taking the radar trailer around, so I was just nipping away at the last little bits. But yeah, when it said, like, claimed that I haven't got enough memory, it was saying I've only used about like 560 megabytes, or gigabytes, sorry, out of 860 or whatever it is. So yeah, it's barely using over half the memory, and it's already claiming now that it's too full. So I don't really know what's going on, but I'm pretty sure it seems to be less and less each time, as if there's, I don't know, I'm not really too clued up with how memory works. I assume from like Hillary Clinton bleaching the hard drives and all that stuff, that once you've used the memory, even if you delete something off it, it doesn't necessarily delete what's on it, it just now recounts that as free memory to overwrite something else on it later. But yeah, it's kind of like every time I fill the PlayStation memory up and then delete a little bit, it's kind of taken a few gigabytes away from me, which is adding up. I've got the first watchtower there. You could see there, yeah, I'm glad I didn't follow the road kind of along the bottom of the map, because there's basically a river then splitting between that and the watchtower, so I don't think I would have easily been able to get back over to this side of the mountain. That's one watchtower down. Seems so easy at this point. Well, to be fair, the map wasn't really much of a punishment tonight or anything. It was just, I suppose, overall a little bit slow going in general. And you can see from the style of the map already with the first watchtower that it's just not going to be a very fast-paced map. Which I don't necessarily mind in the scheme of things. I think so far, first impressions out of the two maps, I certainly prefer the Albany River one. I think it's got like just better scenery and it looks better, flows a bit better and all the rest of it. But yeah, I don't necessarily dislike this map. I need to bring a few more vehicles here. As of yet though, I've not found a garage, so unless there's a mission or contract or whatever that unlocks a garage, then it looks like we're never going to get one. Which is a bit of a shame. It always knocks it down the scale a bit on how much I like a map when there's not a garage, because again, you just have to spend 10-15 minutes faffing around bringing vehicles over just to get onto the map, and by then, 'cause the way the damage mechanics work in this game and that, it could have already smashed your suspension half to pieces, wasted half your fuel, all that sort of stuff, so you don't actually just get to start on the maps with like a fresh vehicle really. Which I suppose in the end it worked out sort of a good thing I brought that maintenance trailer with me, even though I cut it loose pretty near the entrance. At least it's over on this side of the map. And yeah, you can see at some point as well, I think it's along here with these dirt roads, they definitely remind me a little bit like the Phase 8 dirt roads as well. They're not like, for example, if you go back to Michigan, you get a lot of roads that look like this, but they don't really have much deformation to them. They seem to be fairly solid and you're just sort of driving along. In this phase, or this map at least, yeah, some of them, the ruts get pretty deep and they're definitely a cross between like dirt roads and actual mud. And bearing in mind the tyres on this truck are 55-inch tyres, so not the biggest in the whole game now. So like the Twin Steer I think has still got bigger tyres, the Zix has definitely got bigger tyres, and then a few other things like the Cat 745 and that, but for the most part a lot of the vehicles we get to drive around are usually 48 to 51-inch tyres, so these are still another 4 inches, which, yeah, I won't say no to another spare 4 inches, but even then, like, they still sink pretty low in this map. Another glitch. Yeah, I found for the most part it was quicker in the long run just to drive around in high gear, because when you're in auto, again, they seem to have done the same kind of nerf situation that they did on Phase 8. Yeah, trucks used to wind up to speed pretty nicely in 5th gear and stay in it pretty comfortably. And to be fair, this hasn't exactly been kicking me out of 5th gear like every 2 minutes or anything. But just in the scheme of things, the amount of torque you get from high gear, it just gives you like the appropriate amount of torque really compared to what truck you've got. Auto gears can always be a little bit sketchy, and even if you get into 5th it feels like it's holding back a bit on you, which, like I say, isn't necessarily this truck alone. It's just seems to be what they've done these days with the gearboxes, which personally I think is probably one of the worst nerfs they've done in general. I think they're trying to stretch out the pace of the game so you can like it lasts a little bit longer, but yeah, I think they're teetering dangerously close to just making it feel too slow, where everything feels a little bit sort of, yeah, drags out a bit more than it should. But the good news is there'll always be, I'm sure the modders will get hold of this thing pretty soon. As well, this part of the map I'm in, it is quite hilly and windy and all that here. There is other parts of the map that open up a little bit. There's a little bit of main road kind of running on the right hand side up to the north of the map and then across the top a little bit. So yeah, it's still got a mixture of things. Like I said, I certainly don't dislike it as a map. Still, scenery wise and looks wise and all the rest of it, it's a pretty nice map. They seem pretty good so far. So that just kind of got me down off that mountain where I got the first watchtower. And yeah, I'm probably running a little bit late doing this video. Yeah, it's almost 9 o'clock already. I've been, yeah, well, I must have been on this quite a while. I got on the game pretty early, I think. Although the cat was floating around a lot. He's got like a furball thing. Well, because he's really furry, and then now it's temperature started to warm up a little bit. He starts to molt, but then he's got like a lion's mane. That's how furry his like neck and everything is. So every now and then it gets a bit matted up. Like if he's drinking water and then he splashes a bit on it, that's enough. His hair is so wispy and fine that he's yeah, got a furball stuck to the side of his head at the minute, which I'm trying to get in there with scissors, but he's such a nervous, scaredy cat. You can see where that saying comes from. Yeah. He's just, even though it's like I've never harmed him, thinks I'm about to chop his head off with the scissors. It's like he already pre-knows what they are. He's been watching too many horror movies without me. See, and what I was doing as and when I could, even though you're following the roads along, just try and drive to the left or right of the roads along like the grass verge. It kind of helps the game decide to give you all the engine power you've got. Plus downhill definitely helps. There's a few pretty good downhill sections in this phase in general that, yeah, you can actually drop the hammer a bit and get a nice bit of speed going. I was drifting a radar trailer earlier as well with the old Lo4f. Good old radar Lo4f. And yeah, you can see like the pace I'm going now. If I had, say, a Dolphin, for example, with the high range gearbox, and I had it in high gear, there'd just be a quicker pace in general. The video probably wouldn't have ended up being that much shorter either way, because like I said, I've edited a few bits out near the end, but yeah, I still think it would have sped things up a little bit. Or like I say, maybe, yeah, because even the Dolphin, it's not got the most amazing turning circle itself, so I think something like the original Taiga, or even the newer Taiga, or maybe the Vorons, something like that, just especially, well, I certainly didn't need the crane on this. I'd bring a sideboard anyway to pop the Lo4f in, which he's obviously got extra fuel with him. But yeah, just something that's like probably a little bit more of a tighter, more compact truck to zip around. I think it'd not be a bad choice, as long as it's got plenty of power though. You don't want to get one that's kind of a bit gutless, otherwise you'll be yeah, slowly climbing up hills all night. I think that was me just letting off the throttle then when it stalled. That wasn't like the truck itself. But as you watch the tyres, sometimes you can see that they're basically, I think that's one of the biggest things with this truck, is that it does bleed power as its wheel spinning. Trying to feed all 8 wheels, it's yeah, there's usually 1 or 2 that are just spinning faster, and I think that's bleeding the power or the momentum. It's just, yeah, and then when you put it obviously in the diffs, they all go in sync, but by then you're in the low range at that point. This section here, I think if I follow the road to the left, it just kind of loops around this to look like a little bit of a shortcut, so I thought, sod it, I'm going for it. Which worked out pretty nice. I suppose it's the same on this map as well, a bit like the Albany River, where there is a few cut-throughs and workarounds here, there and everywhere that don't necessarily show up on the map. To be fair, that one I just cut down was kind of obvious, even looking on the map, but yeah, there's not necessarily like actual roads drawn on the map. You sort of have to work it out, or eventually as you go around the maps you'll kind of learn, and yeah, once you've got the experience of the maps you'll know all the little sneaky shortcuts that shave a few minutes off here and there. You can see the watchtower in the distance. And yeah, at this point, I mean, that is the second watchtower. I suppose in theory I could just say, right, that's this map explored, job done, 2 out of 2 watchtowers. But overall, especially just these 2 watchtowers, you've probably barely uncovered half of the map. So another nice thing with that truck, the engine's set quite far back so you don't damage it when you crash into stuff. Yeah, so you basically get like this bottom right hand section, there's the The other gateway is kind of on the right hand edge near the south of the map. And then, yeah, that watchtower that you can unlock is, I'm assuming, going to kind of do a radar and pretty much cover that top area. But you still got the very top right of the map, which has got like a farm in the top corner. And then, yeah, the lower right, I think there's like a lake and, yeah, a different gateway and all sorts. But you've got to do a mission to unlock that gateway. And when you look at it from the Albany River point of view, it looks like you have to deliver the stuff to unlock that gateway to the Albany River gateway, like from that side. But I've got a feeling now that it's probably going to make you travel across to this Burned Forest map and then cut through this map to the gateway on this side. Even though it's only a small difference, yeah, that might catch a few people out. I don't know myself yet, but originally I was assuming like, oh, I'll run the stuff. I nearly did the contract yesterday, but yeah, I would have been taking a load of materials to like just the other side of the gateway, but then when I realised that that's the wrong place to go, it's going to be quite a long drive just to go to the other gateway and then all the way across this map. The warehouse there on the right, which yeah, I think that one's already showing up with materials. Yeah, you can tell it's not really damaged, that one. I think the main kind of where the forest is burnt on this map is sort of the top left. There is like this big factory. I assume it's probably a sawmill, maybe. I've seen a few contracts I'm sure mention something about a sawmill. Yeah, all that kind of section's burnt, so the whatever it is, the sawmill or some kind of factory, looks pretty destroyed, so I'm guessing part of the missions is going to be to kind of take various supplies to that and fix it up for a start. I was swinging the camera around all over the place because, like I say, I was looking for the upgrade. I did find an upgrade on this map. It's kind of towards the top of the map, about in the middle. And what did it end up being? I think it was active suspension or raised suspension, but it was for that new Zix. So far I found an engine, but that was for the Zix. Active suspension, that was for this, the Derry. And then, yeah, raised suspension or whatever it was, and that was for the Zix. So I still haven't come across the top engine for this one yet. Another little glitch. Been hammering me with them tonight. Thankfully, they're only like little half-second glitches or whatever, but still makes the footage a little bit less tidy. So if I turned right now, that'd be the gateway, sort of not too far behind me. And yeah, as you can see now, it's like main road. You can drop the hammer a little bit, finally wind up to top speed in 5th gear. And you can see as well, fuel-wise, it's getting fairly low on the tank now. But it's not been terrible, considering the roughness of the terrain and the amount of distance I've actually covered since I've been on this map. It's still a fair amount. I did obviously have that maintenance trailer, so when I got to the entrance of this map, I did refuel myself and everything, so I started from full. And now I'm basically heading over probably a little bit north, but of where that 3rd watchtower is if you do the contract to complete it. And yeah, you can see now I'm heading like into the burnt section of the forest. What is that I'm running over? Oh, I think, yeah, it was a giant rock, I think, that was distracting me. It ends up being like a big fat ditch in the road. Looks like some kind of pipe was running through there that's burst. And I was hoping, because from the angle of the front of this truck, it looked like it would kind of scoot its way up there, but it was not having it in the end. It was kind of caught. Maybe that big fat tree branch line across wasn't really helping the situation, but yeah, it was better to just reverse and scoot around the edge. There is actually like another road kind of leading round the left hand side of this like big blown up pipe in the middle of the road. Old anti-terrorist barricade. Drove over that pretty nicely, and normally when you drive over them they suddenly give your suspension a good whack and delete about 100 of that, but I didn't really get too much of that going on either. Obviously, saying that though, I've got like half suspension left, so I must have took some hits at some point. Some tree stump there. They've not been too bad, although there was a section, I ran over a few burnt trees, and funny enough, when you run over like the fatter part of the tree, it's not too bad, but when you run over like the really skinny end of it that's like, you know, probably got like a centimetre diameter on it, it's like a little twig that a normal car could run over, just the way like the hitboxes work, that like absolutely hangs on to you for dear life. Thankfully they're not all scattered like all across the road and everything, so it's only really once you start venturing down like some of the dirt roads, or if you just freestyle your way across the map. And the Zix, by the way, is like pretty much not right in the top left, but not far off, about as top left of the map you can get. And to get there as well, there's a bit of climbing going on. Well, when I first started this map, like at the first gateway, that road where I said if I followed it along like south and I didn't go that way in the end to get the first watchtower, if you actually followed that road along the south of the map towards like the bottom left, and then you follow that road all the way up the left hand side of the map, then you could get to that Zix as well, like without too much crazy climbing or anything. It's just sort of a bit of a longer drive at that point. That one got me a bit. That was just, yeah, a dead tree I think as well. And then yeah, this is like the big factory section that's all burnt out at the minute that I assume we're going to have to fix up. Thankfully that box is like, yeah, they're not just glued to the map where you catch on them. I'm sure some will be, but at least it wasn't too trollish at that point. And you can see it's quite a big factory. Thankfully, like even though there is a kind of concrete fence or whatever running around the whole edge of this factory, there is a bit down here that's kind of knocked over, which I didn't know at the time. I was just kind of, I was going to do a lap of the factory really just to uncover it all, but then when I seen there was a little wall broken down that I could escape from, I was out of there, started climbing up the mountain a bit more. And then you could kind of tell looking there was a bit of a path going up the cliff. And originally I wasn't even going to go that way. I was kind of thinking I'll just start heading further down the map. But then I kind of seen what was it? There's like a mission in the top corner called Help the Villager 3 or something. So I thought, yeah, whatever's going on up there, I'll check it out a little bit, and then yeah, that's where the Zix is. See, if there's no rocks or anything around, like, and you're in high-low with the diffs on and all the rest of it, it's not too bad of a pace, and it's a pretty decent vehicle for climbing up steeper hills. But yeah, as soon as you get those rocks in the way, it just, I don't know, it's one of these vehicles, it doesn't really like to bounce over it. I assume there's quite a lot of weight to this vehicle, which I think is a good thing, because there's too many vehicles in this game that just feel too light considering they're a whole entire truck. And to be fair then, it was spitting a few rocks out the back without too much hassle. So yeah, I was looking at this point, because obviously like the little ledges along the cliff, I can kind of, I'm turning left now, I could have turned right. And yeah, I was looking now thinking, well, there can't be a hell of a lot there really. Although there is two little kind of cliff edges running there. But then yeah, I seen that mission, I thought, well, they're probably... It wasn't mainly the Zix I was looking for, again, it was more the upgrade I was kind of interested in finding. So, it seemed like a good time, instead of just even turning this big truck around. Jump the loaf out the sideboard and send him in. And yeah, it's funny, the loaf feels like a rally car by comparison. I don't know if it's just because the loaf is smaller, so it looks like it's going faster, but it certainly felt like it was going faster. It's definitely more agile. Climbs over rocks are fun. I was having a good old time when I got in my loaf. So even though there was two cliff edges, I think the other one leads round to there, so you'd end up like on the same little path as I'm going to turn left now. See, that rock is pretty massive compared to the size of the loaf. He just headbutts them out of the way, drives over them, rubs his cock on it, now he owns it, and we're off. Tiny glitch going on there. And then yeah, there's like a road running down the left hand side of the map, so I thought I'd follow this one up. There's quite a lot of red containers randomly scattered around. I think they're just sort of scenery dressing. I don't think any of them are like, it'd be possible to pick them up or anything. A few burnt boxes around as well. This whole entire village of tents that would go up in flames for fun seems to have escaped the fire miraculously. There's a fuel trailer there, so I suppose that's pretty handy. Not that I need it with a goddamn horse. And then yeah, blind driving, because I was eyeballing the trucks at that point. And yeah, this is the Zix, whatever it's called. I grabbed the mission for it, I think that's at Help the Villager 3 or something. And yeah, like, I've not tried it yet, so I don't know either way, but it's funny that they've added that one now, because yeah, it's a little bit like the crocodile truck. It's a little bit like the warthog. It's that sort of thing. But the fact that they only added that crocodile, I suppose it wasn't the last phase actually, was it? It was the phase before, I think. But yeah, it's it seems very similar to that. Which, then again, that being said, I mean, this map definitely feels like more of a twisty type map in various places, where the Derry didn't feel most at home. It certainly feels more at home on the first map, Albany River. So yeah, maybe it'll suit this map pretty well, but I'd like to see more things getting added like that Derry. It's more of like an interesting truck. And it's pretty cool. It's about time that America on this game had like a proper massive, a proper truck. Yeah, you think, I suppose there is the twin steer, but that's got a distinct lack of add-ons or anything, so you're very limited in what you can actually do with that other than purely carrying cargo. Yeah, the Derrys as well, they're a little bit limited, but so you've got some big hefty Russian trucks, I suppose, like the Zix and that sort of stuff. Dan, the Dolphin, John, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's nice now that there is like a pretty good equivalent. Oh, he flew off that bridge then. So yeah, now I've kind of got to the top left of the map. I'm just kind of flying down the road just to meet back up with the where the original watchtower uncovered. You can see, I mean, look at it. Look at him go. Get yourself a loaf. Got a pretty nice pace to him. And one thing I've always liked with the loaf is when you steer it, it's so nice and precise. It's a very stable vehicle as you're driving along as well. A lot of vehicles, when they start getting faster, they're very erratic, they skid around, or the steering's a little bit sketchy. The old loaf, you could thread a needle at 50 mile an hour or whatever, however fast you're going. A little patch of rough mud there though. But you can tell for the most part, so I mean that patch of rough mud I just got there, that's like, you can see it slowed my loaf down at that point. So the whole roads obviously aren't coded like that, otherwise I wouldn't be going as fast as I am now. So yeah, still, there's a potential, like, decent pace to be had. And you can see, yeah, if you followed this road up, kind of running all the way up to the Zix, that'll save you having to do too much mountain climbing. So then now, switch to the other goddamn horse, the one with the radar trailer. So I'm basically back to the start at the gateway, but now I'm heading off to the right hand side of the map instead of the left. And yeah, at this point, what is there, about 11 or 12 minutes of the video left? I do a bit of driving and that, but yeah, some of the bits near the end. Whoa. One main bit of footage I lost. It's not the end of the world, because I actually already had the footage. When I was driving along that main road in the Derry, I kind of did that same route with this Lo4f to take the radar trailer up to the top corner of the map, and yeah, that was when I went to save the footage, and then it just was blocking me, like wouldn't highlight the option to save it. So I did the radar trailer there, just kind of make sure all the gateway and everything there's uncovered. I'm going to follow this little dirt road going up to that corner of the map, because I knew the gateway was somewhere in that right hand side. When I was on Albany River, it must have been from like maybe checking that watchtower contract, but then it did like a little yellow box at each of the gateways sort of telling you to travel through, so even though it was in pitch black, it basically told me where the second gateway was. Spoilt the surprise for me. I don't care, it was kind of nice to know it was there. See, again, if the roads get a little rough, the old Lo4f can squeeze his way down the left or right, no problems. Which yeah, the devs usually don't bother coding that to be as severe as the actual roads. Didn't like this bit of mud though. It's funny as well, because there's a few patches here and there where you got some boggy mud, and there's never a decent tree where you want it to be on this map I sort of found. There's plenty of trees in places you really would rather they're not, and they just end up getting in the way more than anything. I think now, yeah, sorry, I think the cat turned up then, so he kind of, yeah, he pops up between my legs and sort of puts his head under the remote and kind of tries to headbutt it out of the way. He knows how to get attention. It's a bit of a fat rock there as well. Smashing that gearbox. Going in high gear for the old Lo4f. Don't use that one too often, because the autos usually still gives you a pretty nice pace, but yeah, in certain rough sections high gear is actually quite nice on the Lo4f, because again it's like gives you all the torque. It's not the fastest, but you don't have to keep suffering through where the game just constantly tries to force you back to first gear as soon as you run over like a snail shell sized piece of mud. And to be fair as well, the radar trailer is a bit of a dead weight, and it's just got crappy tyres on it, the front tyres in particular. For one, it's like a dolly axle type thing, which can be a bit of a pain in the arse when you're trying to reverse it, but even if the dolly axle wasn't a thing on this, if it was just fixed, the back end of the radar trailer particularly, just if you try and reverse it, it more digs in and then just does a wheelie, and you start sort of reversing under it really. But yeah, it's just always been a bit of a awkward dead weight to drag around, this thing has. And there is always the option, like when I have the Lo4f in the sideboard, you can actually just reverse the Lo4f to the back of the sideboard and then connect to the radar trailer, which is still touching the ground and everything, but you can actually drag it around that way. I also, just before I ran the setup at the beginning of this video, instead of the maintenance trailer, I actually got a ramped flatbed trailer and then packed the Lo4f and the radar trailer on that, and I was going to bring that, but then I sat there, it took me ages to just thinking like, do I want to take that or shall I take a maintenance trailer? And yeah, in the end I kind of concluded like the maintenance trailer will be more useful. Once I get to this map, I'm essentially just going to unload the Lo4f and the radar trailer off the ramped flatbed, and then it's just be a ramped flatbed sat there on the side of the road, so I kind of figured, yeah, the maintenance trailer would be more useful in the end. I think as well I've got the autonomous winch on this, which is handy because I knew then if I do roll at any point, or more, yeah, like even when you're reversing that, the radar trailer, because the radar trailer is quite weighty as well, if that starts to tip, it can actually take you with it. But yeah, having an autonomous winch, I kind of know even if it flops me over to the side, I can still get out of it. But obviously the autonomous winch doesn't have as much reach as the advanced winch, so I'm kind of mostly used to the advanced winch, so I kind of know just naturally got a feeling for the kind of distances when I can start firing the winch out. But yeah, always gets me on this one because it's a little bit less, so you always get it popping up saying there's no available winch points. It's like, what? You find one, Lo4f. You find it now. Yeah, radar trailered here, so that's the bottom left of the map. Typically I've just missed the gateway at this point. It's not at that bit. I was just checking to see if there's any possible chance of a upgrade being there, if there's like a path leading off. Yeah, the gateway must be about there, because you can see where the main road kind of leads to it. So now I'm going to head up that side of the map. Well, I think I do a bit of driving at the minute, but yeah, after that I think I get to the gateway actually, and then it glitches me driving up the main road. Lo4f, still got turn and circle of a housefly. That's what you need. And like I say, I think in the scheme of things, I'd argue the Lo4f's are going faster now than like that Derry was. Still getting the job done. See what I mean now? Just a dead tree line across the road would probably be quite useful at this point. They're never there when you need one. Again, just trying to auto fire a winch out. It's like muscle memory at this point. Right, no, that road looks a bit too boggy for my liking. We'll zip up along the edge. Works like a charm. And yeah, a few videos I've still got to do that I want to get out sooner rather than later. Like I say, I want to find that upgrade pretty soon, so I can do a gameplay and review of this new Derry. Fairly soon as well. I'll do the mission so I can unlock the Zix, because I'm not in as much of a rush to get the review out for that. I'm still looking forward to doing it, but I just mean it's a more bog standard truck. Yeah, but I'll get the mission done for that and then do the gameplay and review on that. I'll probably do a video as well just showing like the locations of, say, the Derry and the upgrades for it, and then the Zix and the upgrades for that. And then I think I'll be about caught up to that point where I can just carry on as normal, like picking missions at that point. With a watchtower on this map, I'll probably do the video sooner rather than later, but yeah, at this point I've just radared the whole map and I don't know, it's kind of missed its opportunity really. It's a bit of an odd one doing that watchtower as like an extra thing. So yeah, it must be now when it glitches then. So you can see the blue line I've drawn to go up to like the top right of the map, and then I end up going from the top right over to like the top middle of the map. But that's where I lost the footage. But at least at this point I knew I'd lost the footage. The upgrade was right there as well. That was for the, I believe, raised suspension for the Zix. So because I'd already known I'd lost the footage, yeah, I drove up there. There's a path veering off to this farm. I just got to about there. I didn't follow the whole road up. Did the radar trailer, which just pretty much perfectly got to like that whole corner of the map. And then I followed this main road along. I found the upgrade because I did a radar trailer about there, to be honest, and the upgrade appeared. So I zipped down, got that, drove back up to where my radar trailer is, and then you just see me kind of reconnect it there. So then the last bit is sort of this patch in the top corner really, which I'll do a little bit of driving, but yeah, some of this I'm just going to edit out because like I say, I was just at that point nipping away at the last little edges. This might be a good example. Is it the tree? Yeah, look how much it hangs on to the trailer. And strictly speaking, it's a pretty skinny bit of the tree that you just snap off normally, but look at it, even like it's fighting against the winch quite a lot. But when I actually drove over like the fatter end of the tree, certainly with a Lo4f anyway, he bumps over it no problem. So there's another warehouse down here that's burnt out, so we might have to fix that one up at some point. I don't think it's in a position to give us any cargo at the minute. I assume it's got to be like a main warehouse we're going to use, because there's pretty much a road just leading down to it, and then technically the road ends now, but the old loaf, he's seen Back to the Future. Where he's going, he don't need roads. So yeah, got to about there, did a radar trailer, that kind of got that section done. And again, there's been a little eyeball around for the upgrade. And at this point, I think, yeah, I just skip it at this point, because like I said, it was just, there was so much footage, probably another 20 minutes for not really anything like concrete. It was just doing more radar trailers. But this is a look of the map. So that was the first gateway, that was the second gateway. There's the second watchtower that was there. That's like the top right of the map that's got the farm there, and then you start getting this sort of top middle, top left, where you can see like it's burnt at that point. There's the Zix 566, I think it's called, but the new Zix anyway, in the top left of the map. There's the road running down the left, which I drove the loaf down. I'm pretty close to the edge of the map. I know I could do with like zipping a radar trailer down there just to fully uncover it, but it seems like there's, you know, sort of scenery running along the edge. I don't think there's anything major actually further on that side. And yeah, then I just went back to this truck, which I kind of left when I jumped the loaf off it really. It's still sat there up in the cliffs. Still got a bit of fuel left. I don't even think I used the roof rack fuel as well, so still can get a bit more distance out of this. But yeah, anyway, that's about it for today though. I hope you've enjoyed, I hope that helps. Thanks for watching, thanks to my Patreon members. Get yourself a loaf because he's goddamn professional and he saved me bacon as usual. And I'll be back soon. It's a pretty nice view there as well.